Hey friend, please subscribe and like the video. 1 second for you. Big deal for me. I learned 2 new kinds of silence the day we buried my husband. There's the heavy silence of a church with too many empty pews. It drops over you like a wool blanket you can't push off. Then there's the sharp silence of a cell phone that will not stop buzzing while you pretend it isn't there. I had both. "My name is Ava Monroe," I told the pastor when he asked how I wanted the obituary read. Keep it simple. He hated long speeches. What I didn't say is that Daniel had been the man who taught me how to pull life back together with duct tape and prayer after every storm. He loved things that worked: coffee makers, carburetors, marriage vows, and he maintained them. He maintained us. He would have hated the echo in that church. I stood near the front, fingers pressed to the cool wood of his casket, the lilies' sweetness turning sour in my throat. Behind me were rows and rows of polished oak, unoccupied. Not my mother, not my father, not my older sister Paige, with her rehearsed smile and glittering ring. Not my brother, who could find time for golf in a thunderstorm. Not my best friend, who texted me recipes and podcasts and apparently RSVPs to parties, but not funerals. I had left the back door open until the psalm began, expecting some familiar shape to slip in, flushed and apologizing. It never happened. Just the pastor's gentle voice. Just wind nudging colored light through stained glass. Just the buzzing in my purse. A mosquito that had found a vein. I waited to cry. I really did. The body keeps score. It should have known to shake itself loose, rattle bones, make room for grief. Nothing came. It was as if I'd been emptied in advance, scraped clean the night before when my cousin leaned close and whispered, "An engagement is once in a lifetime. Funerals, they can wait." Then she'd laughed like it was a brilliant joke. Champagne for punctuation, of course. At the graveside, the ground gave way with that soft crumble dirt has when it's been prepared, ready to swallow what you love and give nothing back. Someone put a fold of black umbrella between me and the sky. Someone said, "I'm sorry for your loss." The way you say, "bless you," after a sneeze. Then car doors thumped shut and the engine started, and I realized every familiar voice in this town had somewhere better to be. My phone lit my palm with a small, cruel glow. We need to talk. Now. Paige. 36 missed calls stacked like folding chairs. My mother, my father, my best friend. A few unknown numbers that smelled like trouble. I slid the phone into my purse and let it suffocate. When the last shovel patted down the earth, I whispered into the wind, not to God, not even to Daniel. He hated when I asked him to fix what people broke, but to the part of me that stayed standing. "They chose their side," I said. I heard them. On the drive home, I kept the radio off, let the tires sing. I could almost hear the engagement party 3 miles away, clinking glass, laughter pitched just a little too high, a live band doing its level best to be tasteful. Our town has 2 kinds of evenings: church basement casseroles and rented tent twinkle lights, and apparently I was in the wrong one. I parked in our driveway and stared at the front door. We'd painted it Daniel's first summer home, a blue he swore matched the creek behind the house at 9 a.m. "Not 8:30, he'd said. "Not 9:30. 9 on the dot. That blue is a morning appointment." Inside, lilies. The good couch. The framed wedding photo where I leaned back laughing, and Daniel looked at me like the punchline was worth it. On the mantel, his watch in a little bowl, the one he took off exactly 6:15 every night because he liked to feel his wrists breathe. I set my purse down and finally pulled out the phone. The text threads were a chorus gone off key. "Paige, we need to talk now. Mom, call me immediately. This isn't what you think. Dad, you're being dramatic. Don't embarrass the family. Best friend, Maya. I'm so sorry. I couldn't miss it. You understand, right? Understand." The word got caught sideways in my throat, I powered the phone off and set it face down on the table like a little sleeping animal. The house breathed around me. Somewhere, a pipe ticked. The fridge hummed like it was nervous. When the doorbell finally rang, it didn't ding. It pounded. Not once, not twice. A steady, official rhythm, the kind of knock that doesn't ask. It announces. I opened the door to my mother, still in the silk she'd worn to the engagement, perfume floating around her like a decision. Her hair didn't know sorrow, not yet. "We need to talk," she said, voice clipped. That tone she uses with waiters, with junior bank tellers, with me. "You missed his funeral," I said. My voice made a sound I didn't recognize. "All of you." "Unfortunate timing," she replied, stepping inside as though invited. "Paige's engagement is... well, it's once in a lifetime. Your father gave a toast. We couldn't disappoint. You'll understand one day." I laughed, short and sharp. "Will I?" She adjusted a bracelet. Her eyes did a quick inventory of my hallway, the way people do before they imagine redecorating. "Let's sit," she said briskly. "There are practical matters to address now that he's gone." There it was. The draft under the door. We sat. She perched. I poured water because that's what I do when I don't know whether to throw someone out or feed them. "You're young, Ava," she began, that lecture whisper she used on PTA presidents. "You don't understand how the world works. Daniel left assets, the house, the savings, the company shares. It isn't wise for you to manage all that alone. Your father and I think it's best if everything is redistributed." The word took its shoes off and put its feet on my coffee table. "To who?" I asked, though I could already hear the answer. "To your sister," she said, unblinking. "She's starting a new life. She needs support. And you're strong. You'll be fine. Strong. In my family, that meant you can do without. It meant we can ask you to lift the heavy end because you won't complain. It meant you'll carry the piano while we play." I took a breath. "You skipped my husband's funeral," I said softly, "to toast her engagement. And now you're here for his legacy." "Don't twist this," she snapped. "It's family duty. Don't be selfish." Selfish. That one slid between ribs and made itself at home. I stood, smoothed my skirt. My voice came out steady, the way the sky looks before a storm decides. "I'll think about it," I said. Relief poured over her like warm syrup. She touched my arm the way you pat a dog that finally sits. "Good girl." I walked her to the door, held it open, watched her float down the steps to her car with that tall posture she gets when she believes the world is exactly as it should be. "Not a chance," I whispered, and closed the door gently. All that night the house had its sounds. The heater's deep sigh, the little tick our hallway lamp makes at midnight. I pulled Daniel's lockbox from the study closet, the one with the shallow dent where he'd once dropped a wrench, cussed softly, then apologized to the box like it had feelings. Inside, every page you need when love runs out of time. The will, the deed, the accounts, the company documents. Daniel had been the kind of man who labeled everything. The jar of screws, the winter boots, the future. His handwriting steadied me. Ava gets the house, the savings, my shares. He'd underlined my name, twice. Not to be dramatic, he'd say, just to be clear. Clarity is a generous thing. I slept 3 hours with the documents tucked beneath the bed like a guard dog. And when the sun pulled a weak yellow thread across our kitchen tile, I made my first call. Not to my mother, not to my sister, not to the friend who thought forgiveness was included with brunch, but to Mr. Daniels, our family lawyer. A serious man with the patient eyebrows of someone who has seen the same greed over and over, just wearing different cologne. "Mrs. Monroe," he said, and the formal made me ache. "I am so sorry." "Thank you," I said. "I need you to read every line to me like I'm slow." We went clause by clause, signature by signature, dates, witnesses, beneficiaries. He paused twice the way you do when you're surprised and also not. Daniel was thorough, he said. You are protected. Prepare, he warned. Even good paper makes bad people brave. By noon, my phone flickered to life with one new message from an unknown number. Sign the papers or you'll regret it. Fear did not rise. I had spent it the day before at a hole in the ground. I turned on the kettle, wrote down every word. And then I waited. Because sometimes the best thing a woman can do is nothing at all, until the room gets loud enough to show you who's shouting. They didn't return quietly. My family never does. Sunday evening brought an entire committee to my front porch. My mother in fresh silk, my father with a jaw like a closed briefcase, Paige trailing glitter, and my best friend Maya 3 paces behind, worry face on like a borrowed coat. They didn't knock. They insisted. We're here to settle this, my father announced the moment the door opened, as if my house were a courtroom and he had the gavel. He brushed past me without waiting, leaving the scent of aftershave and assumption. I closed the door, felt the latch click. A small sound, but final. Settle what? I asked, standing by the window because the light there is honest. The assets, my mother said, landing on my couch like it belonged to her. We can't keep dancing around this. It's unseemly. Your sister's wedding is in a few weeks. We need to reallocate for the optics and the expenses. The word optics did a little dance on my coffee table next to redistribute. Maya tried a careful smile. Ava, honey, let's just talk. No lawyers, no paperwork. Family can figure family out. I looked at her, the girl who'd held my hair back in college, who knew the exact way I take my coffee, too strong, too sweet, who had sent me a video last night of Paige's sparkler moment with the caption, "Wish you were here," and the audacity to add a heart. Family didn't show up yesterday, I said. Lawyers will do fine. Paige leaned forward, ring catching afternoon light. Come on, Ava, don't make this ugly. He's gone. You don't need houses and portfolios to remember him. Let us take care of this. There's a particular kind of smile women wear when they grew up, learning to make men comfortable with small lies. Paige had perfected it. I used to think it was power. Now I saw the fear underneath, the tremor in her mouth when she needed someone else's yes to keep her life pretty. I walked to the mantel and lifted Daniel's photo, the one where he's looking at me instead of the camera. I held it to my chest like a book you don't want anyone else to read. You left me alone when I needed you most, I said, voice low. You left him alone when he deserved your respect, and now you want what he gave to me. Ava, my father thundered, do not play martyr in this house. I'm not playing, I said. I buried my husband without you. That's not a costume. Silence. Even the heater stopped to listen. Finally, I pointed to the door. Leave. My mother stood in outrage. You can't be serious. I am, I said. The next time we talk, it won't be here. It'll be somewhere truth is written down. Mr. Daniels will be in touch. My father's nostrils flared. It's his tell. You're making a mistake. Maybe, I said. At least it will be mine. They left like storms do, with bluster and a sudden drop in temperature. Maya lingered. Ava, please, this isn't you. This is exactly me, I said. You just haven't met her yet. When the latch clicked again, I sat at the dining table, pulled a yellow legal pad toward me, and drew 2 columns, what they took and what I keep. They had taken presents, comfort, casseroles, the quiet of a shared pew, the hand on my back when the casket dips. They had taken the simple dignity of being witnessed in pain. What I kept, the deed, the will, the truth, the memory of Daniel's morning blue door, my own backbone, the law. Monday morning, Mr. Daniels mailed letters on thick cream paper with his seal pressed in blue, 1 copy to my parents, 1 to Paige, 1 to Maya because betrayal wears best friend lipstick. Notice of estate distribution, every clause of the will included. No wiggle. No, to be determined. Daniel had named me sole beneficiary and executor. The ink itself leaned my way. By lunchtime, my phone was a siren. My father's voice left a dent in my voicemail. You dare humiliate your mother this way? My mother's sobs had a script. You're tearing us apart. Paige sent sugar poison. You're going to be very lonely, Ava. Don't say we didn't try. Lonely. Here's what they didn't understand. Loneliness is less frightening than disrespect. And grief is a wild animal that, once you sit with it long enough in the dark, starts to purr when it recognizes you. By midweek, the town had its whispers. We're small. Sound travels through grocery aisles and salon chairs. People who'd clapped at Paige's engagement started lowering their voices when my mother walked by. The florist told a friend who told me that my sister called asking for a different payment plan. The florist said, "We don't do payment plans." The venue demanded money up front. Deposits are cruel teachers when your reputation is late to class. I did nothing, kept my head down, sent thank you notes to the 3 neighbors who had shown up at the funeral because their parents taught them manners, took fresh lilies to the cemetery, and told Daniel the stems were sturdier this time. Then came the unknown number again. Last warning. Sign the transfer or we go public. I turned the kettle on. Fear didn't come. Calm did. I texted Mr. Daniels the screenshot. He replied in 10 minutes with a sentence that felt like a warm coat. You owe no one what your husband assigned to you. Full stop. Then, expect them to escalate. That's what people do when no stop's working. He was right. Friday afternoon, I ran into Mr. Harrison at the bank. He's an old friend of my father's, a man who believes in ties and thank you notes. He approached with the cautious expression people save for funerals and scandal. Ava, he said, I heard a version of what happened. For what it's worth, your Daniel came to see me 6 months ago. He updated everything. He was deliberate. I know, I said. My throat tightened with relief. Not a plea, just a witness. Thank you. His eyes softened. Your mother came by yesterday, loudly. He lowered his voice. You're doing the right thing. Take your time. Grief shouldn't be rushed by anyone else's calendar. I went home and put the kettle on again. I was learning that hot water helps even when it can't fix the thing that broke. That night, while the town curled into itself, I sorted receipts and looked at numbers. It wasn't about greed, it was about stewardship. Daniel had left me assets because he trusted me to hand our future to the right version of myself. That's a sacred assignment. Sacred things do not get redistributed to make parties prettier. The following week, the rehearsal dinner ripple hit shore. The caterer canceled. The band regretted to inform. The venue called my sister by her first name instead of sweetheart. And the engagement fund my parents had quietly planned to reallocate. The accounts were locked, my signature required and withheld. My mother called just before 9, that hour when a person's pride has gotten tired. Her breath hitched once, then twice. Ava, she said, they're looking at us differently. The Andersons, the pastor's wife, even the Blackwoods. We need your help. I let her words hang. I thought of the empty pews, the lilies curling at the edges. Paige's text. You'll be lonely. My mother's earlier sentence. You'll understand one day. I needed you once, too, I said softly. Yesterday. You chose champagne. Ava, she whispered. Please. I'm choosing silence, I said. It's kinder than what you chose for me. I ended the call, then turned the phone face down and looked at my hands. They were steady. The wedding went ahead because Paige doesn't know how to stop a performance once the lights are on. It was thinner, fewer flowers, a borrowed veil, folding chairs instead of chiavari. The same fiancé, now more subdued. People came, because people always do. But the air had changed. Shame has a temperature. I did not go. I went to the cemetery instead, with a small thermos of coffee and 2 cups, because old habits are a kind of prayer. I told Daniel everything, how the law had a calm voice and how quiet can be a blade you don't have to swing. The breeze lifted a strand of hair off my cheek, and I decided to count that as approval. On the way home, I stopped at the grocery store. The cashier looked at the lilies and then at me and said nothing, which was exactly right. Outside, under the flimsy awning, Maya appeared. She had always been beautiful in the kind of way that made waiters look twice. Big eyes, warm laugh. Today she looked small inside her coat. "Ava," she said, hands twisting, "I messed up." "You did," I agreed. I thought Paige needed me more," she stammered. "And the party. Everyone was going. Your mom said you didn't want a big crowd at the funeral. I knew it was a lie halfway through the sentence, but I went anyway. I'm sorry." I let the rain beads gather on the lily's plastic wrap. "Grief tells the truth about people, Maya. I wish it didn't." "Can I fix it?" she asked, eyes bright with hope. "I'll talk to your mom, to everyone. I'll tell them." "You'll tell them what they already know," I said. "They chose. So did you." She bit her lip. "Are we done?" "We're different," I said. "Different might be temporary. It might be permanent. That's not a threat. It's just weather." She nodded and cried in that quiet way people cry when they're embarrassed to be seen with need. I squeezed her hand, because compassion and boundaries can sit at the same table if you set the chairs right. I went home, put lilies in water, sat on the floor with a box of Daniel's sweaters and let my body finally shake. Not because of them. Because love needs room to thunder through you sometimes so it doesn't calcify. When the storm in me quieted, I realized something else. This wasn't just a fight over money or property. It was the end of a doctrine I'd grown up inside. That respect comes after success, that you earn your place at the table by making yourself useful to the people already seated. Daniel spent 10 years teaching me another doctrine. That love isn't transactional and dignity isn't a tip. I slept like a person who has chosen. 2 weeks later, Mr. Daniels called with the voice people use for good news they're afraid to jinx. "It's done," he said. "They've withdrawn their attempts. Such a polite word for what greed does when it borrows family names. "Thank you," I said, "for being a wall when I only had a spine." He chuckled softly. "You had both. For what it's worth, your husband made it easy to defend you. He loved you in signatures and witnesses. That's rare." After we hung up, I took the morning for errands I'd postponed because grief makes calendars stutter. At the hardware store, I bought a new house number because ours had a crack through the 3, and Daniel would have hated that. At the post office, I mailed 3 thank you notes and 1 small box to the pastor's wife. She had pressed a piece of shortbread into my palm after the funeral and said, "It's not enough, but it's something. And when people show you how to be human, you should return the recipe." When I got home, I found my father sitting on the front step. I hadn't seen him look small since the day I flunked algebra, and he sat in the car breathing too fast because he didn't know how to help. Even then, he'd kept his tie straight. Now his tie was crooked. He stood when I approached, cleared his throat twice, found no words, and finally said, "Your door looks good." "Morning appointment blue," I said. His eyes flicked to me, recognition, then something vulnerable. "I was wrong," he said, like swallowing a stone. "About the funeral. About all of it." I leaned against the porch post because support doesn't have to be visible to count. "Yes." He took a shaky breath. "I let your mother run the room because she's better at hosting. I let Paige be the center because she's louder. I told myself you were strong enough to do without, and called that love. It was laziness and pride. I am sorry." My throat tightened. My father wasn't a man who apologized. He was a man who paid the bill and called that affection. "Thank you," I said. "It wasn't absolution, it was a receipt." He nodded. "Your mother, She won't say it well. She'll make it sound like an invitation to brunch. His mouth twitched. But she's ashamed. Shame isn't the point, I said. Respect is. We can start there. He looked at the door, then back at me. Do you want company? To sit. We don't have to talk. Not today, I said. But sometime, bring your tie straight. A half smile. I'll work on it. He walked to his car like he was learning how to carry his own body differently. I watched him go and thought about how sometimes growth is not a chorus. It's one voice getting ready to sing alone. That afternoon, I drove to the cemetery again with a folding chair and a sandwich, because a therapist once told me to bring my dead into ordinary things. The sky was that high, clean blue Daniel loved. The kind that makes you forgive this planet nearly everything. I thought about selling the house, I said out loud, but I decided to change the house number and keep the mornings. A leaf scuttled by. Your lockbox saved me, your underlines. Thank you for loving me like a lawyer and a husband. On the way home, I swung by the church. The janitor was sweeping the entryway, the man who'd handed me a tissue I didn't take at the funeral. He looked up and nodded the way men do when they see grief walk in wearing jeans. I wanted to pay for the flowers, I said, setting an envelope on the wooden table by the bulletins. And for the coffee pot that needs replacing. He hated when coffee tasted burned. He smiled. He was right. As I turned to leave, a woman stepped from the side aisle, Mrs. Jenkins, who's known me since I had bangs and a bad attitude. She took my hand in both of hers. You held yourself with dignity, Ava, she said softly. That's the kind God notices on quiet days. I didn't trust my voice, so I squeezed back, left the envelope, and stepped into the bright afternoon. By evening, my phone had one new message. A photo from Paige in her wedding dress, veil catching light like a net, captioned, "It happened." No apology. No invitation for repair. Just proof that the show had gone on. I stared at it for a long beat. Then I typed, I hope you learn to stay when it matters. I didn't send it. Not because she didn't deserve the mirror. She did. But because I deserved quiet. I deleted the draft and put my phone away. That night I set a plate for one at our kitchen table and said grace the way Daniel always did. Short, specific. Thank you for the small mercies. For the calm voice of the law, I whispered. For the neighbors who know casserole math. For the morning blue that keeps its appointment. Sleep came easy. In the months that followed, the town adjusted the way towns do. People looked me in the eye. Some walked up and said, I was wrong not to be there. I learned to accept apologies without auditioning for their sincerity. Maya showed up on my porch with grocery store daisies and a list of all the ways she wanted to do better. I gave her one small job and told her we'd see. My mother sent a text with 3 words, I miss you, which might be the most honest thing she's said in a decade. I answered, I'm here, with boundaries. The house softened. Grief turned down its volume a notch. I replaced one of the couch pillows Daniel hated with a better one, because compromise shouldn't outlive the compromiser. I didn't become a different woman. I became the woman Daniel trusted I could be when he underlined my name twice. One Sunday after church, the pastor asked if I'd consider speaking at the grief group. Not a speech, just a chair, a circle, a story. I said yes, because if silence had been my weapon, truth could be my bomb. I told them everything. Not with heat, but with that calm you get when the worst already happened and you survived it. I told them how people will call you selfish when you refuse to be used. How strong is sometimes the cruelest compliment. How the law can be love dressed up in notarized ink. How you can forgive someone without sitting next to them at weddings. How dignity doesn't ring a bell when it arrives. It sits down quietly and holds your hand. When I finished, a woman in the back with tired eyes said, I stayed for my sister's baby shower instead of my father's surgery. I told myself love was loudest where the balloons were. I was wrong. We get taught the wrong math, I said. We can learn better. After the meeting, on the church steps, the sky did that exact shade Daniel liked. I stood there and let morning appointment blue spill down the afternoon, thinking maybe color doesn't care about clocks. It just wants to be seen. On the anniversary of the funeral, I went early to the cemetery with a thermos and a little radio that picks up 2 stations if you hold it right. I poured coffee into 2 cups again because some habits are altars. I played a song Daniel loved because it was simple and right in the middle of the melody he'd squeeze my hand twice. The air was cool enough to feel clean. I thought I would end up hard, I said. Turns out I ended up precise. A breeze lifted. I laughed. Not loud, not sad, just the sound a person makes when they realize they kept what mattered. On my way out, I passed the church. The door was open. Inside, a janitor hummed. The pews were empty, but they didn't feel accusing anymore. They felt ready. I stood in the aisle where I'd stood that first day, shaking, counting absences like beads. I touched the back of the pew and whispered a prayer that wasn't a prayer so much as a thank you note to whoever arranges these moments. For the lesson, for the spine, for the law, for the lilies that keep trying. Outside, the town did what towns do. Kids on bikes, a dog deciding who to bark at, someone complaining about the price of eggs. I breathed it in. Here's what I learned. Sometimes love leaves you a lockbox and a roadmap. Sometimes your family teaches you how not to raise your children. Sometimes the kindness you needed doesn't arrive, so you give it forward like change at a register. And sometimes the loudest revenge is simply refusing to be moved. A month later, my doorbell rang. Not pounding. A simple ring. I opened it to find my father and mother standing together. No silk, no tie, just people. We brought coffee, my father said, lifting a paper carrier like a white flag. We brought apology, my mother added, eyes wet for the right reasons. I stepped back. Come in, I said. We're starting with small cups. They sat. We didn't revisit the ledger, not yet. We chose weather and memories and the kind of quiet that holds. After they left, I set 2 cups in the sink, put my hand on the counter, and looked at the door. Morning appointment blue. Exactly the color of a day you decide to stay. What they took will never return exactly as it was. What I keep is better. A name underlined twice. A house where the law and love agree. A town that learned my face. A spine that doesn't apologize for being upright. A silence that chose me back. And when I think of that church now, I don't hear emptiness. I hear a seat saved for whoever needs it next. And the sound of one woman's steady breath as she stands where she belongs.